roadmap or a potential ceasefire deal or agreement that would end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But the tone, the tenor, the messaging that's come from Donald Trump indicates that the onus will lie solely on Ukraine to accept a deal that it may not do so, given that it would involve a very large amount of its territory going away from it forever and coming under Russian control. Does that mean that we've come back to where we started in terms of 3.5 years later? It's pretty much a deal breaker, Michelle.
You could say we've come back to where we started, but there's a big difference, which is who's in the White House and what their disposition towards Russia is. Donald Trump obviously is much more friendly towards Vladimir Putin than Joe Biden was. I think there were some opportunities under Biden before the situation got to this point where there were some chances for off-ramps that Biden did not take that are not really either available to Trump or that Trump wouldn't be interested in any case. I think what we're looking at right now, the word is that Russia is planning a new offensive next month. And if indeed they launch one, Ukraine is going to need significant assistance of the kind that Biden, toward the end of his term, had a very, very hard time getting through the Republican Congress. Eventually he did, but Trump is not going to be inclined to towards that kind of assistance to Ukraine. And he certainly isn't going to have a Congress that's going to push him on it. Mm-hmm. So this is, again, I think this comes back to the question of what Trump said about really Russia being the big power and Ukraine not being a big power, implying that Russia really holds the strategic advantage. And I think Trump is basically saying, look, you don't have the hand to play, something that he said to Zelensky months ago in the White House. And but since then,
Donald Trump's messaging and view with regard to Ukraine has also changed. It also went through a complete cycle from, throwing out Zelensky for not showing enough gratitude in the Oval Office. The lunch was also cancelled, to arming Ukraine with Patriot missiles, and then coming out with its hardening posture against Russia, whether it's secondary sanctions or whether it's several others. It also imposed, the Trump administration imposed fresh 25% additional tariffs on India for importing Russian oil. All that is part of the frustration that Donald Trump felt of not being able to close a deal. Now, after that is when the summit takes place today. And then just hours after the summit ended, it is now the messaging which is Ukraine's got to accept a deal that may just be too much of a red flag. Now, Alison, given the fact that there is no ceasefire, given the fact that there is no end in terms of hostilities, given the fact that Russia has a certain military momentum going in its favor, this kind of posture by Donald Trump is going to further embolden Russian forces. And would that have an impact in terms of how things unfold on ground from a military assault point of view, and also in terms of a final peace formula?
So, as we've seen already, anytime the U.S. has serious talks like these with Russia, Russia will accompany that with a military push or offensive. And that did occur while Trump and Putin were speaking. So part of this is also Russia's move to help to this idea of Russia being a stronger player, of trying to negotiate. If we think of all of the different moves that Trump has done against Ukraine or against Russia or Russia's military offensives, those are all things that can be done to improve negotiating posture and position. What we have seen over the course of the last 3 years with Ukraine is that the Russian advancements militarily have been fairly slow, and that they have not really been able to conduct any type of offensive that would be a critical blow to Ukraine such that they could end the conflict militarily. So while these talks may encourage Russia to continue their operations because they have to for maintaining their posture, negotiations, and talks, what we've also seen militarily from Russia is that they're not in a position right now to do any type of offensive that would create a major change in the battle space in Ukraine anytime in the near future, such that Ukraine would have no choice but to either surrender or accept a deal.
Mm-hmm. All right. A quick break. I return on the other side and continue this big story. Stay with us, Mitchell and Alison.
Mohit, you are known for your music. All your films, musics stay with us till today. I'm a millennial and those music are kind of music. So whenever we say Mohit Suri film aa raha hai, we know the music will be good, right? It's a given. So you really work hard. But is this always like how you create your music? You need everything in place, the mood, the lighting, even when the person is in the studio and just singing. And also, how did you select your musicians that this person's voice is perfect for this song?
That's what I think, the amount you give to a song, that's how long it will last, I think. Everyone does the programming, everyone writes the words, everyone makes the thing. But the thing is how much you give, how much of heart you give to the lyrics or to the music or to the melody or to the singing. That's how long the song will last, is what I genuinely feel. If you don't give that love, you're not going to get it back. It's just a simple debit and credit procedure, I think, with the audience. I genuinely feel I don't have any special skill. I don't know any scale or anything else. It's just that I enjoy that process a lot. Give me an evening to just go for a film party or something, I'll skip it. But you give me like a struggling musician to go who has a great tune, some new guys, chill all night with them. I can do that. I can just sit there, make music and stuff like that. We just did that recently. Fahim came down. He just surprised us, and we met in my Bandra office. And Han was there, Aneet was there, and he made me hear his other songs and stuff like that. But it was it's so much fun, because I just think making music. Film you still get to see something. Yeah. I think music is so amazing. You
don't need to see anything.
It's in the air, and suddenly it just comes together, and it's just you can just feel it. And something you hear makes you feel something. It's just magical.
NDTV 24/7 is India's #1 English news channel on YouTube. Credible, compelling, always ahead of the curve. Thank you for choosing NDTV 24/7 as your trusted source for news.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
Vanakkam Tamil Nadu.
Well, the battle for Tamil Nadu 2026 is open now.
After Chief Minister Stalin rolls up his sleeves. And Vijay.
Viewers, the big story that NDTV has been focusing on, the ICE summit, the Alaska summit in Anchorage has broken ice between Russia and America. But the ceasefire, a deal, the roadmap to ending the Ukraine-Russia conflict remains elusive. No clarity on when, if that will happen. All we know is that there is a possibility of a second summit that may take place in Moscow. That's what Vladimir Putin proposed, mind you, in English for the world to understand and acknowledge that it was the Russian president offering Moscow as a potential venue for the second summit, with Donald Trump first saying that he's going to get a lot of flack or heat for it, but then said he could work around it. Does that mean that the two leaders will meet next in Moscow, or is this yet another instance of good optics that's been at play? Visuals we are putting out showing you instances of smiles, of handshakes, even as the elusive deal continues to be a bit of a problem. Updates have come in since then, where Donald Trump has given out an interview to an American network saying very clearly that now Ukraine needs to accept a deal. Now, what is that deal? The best deal that is on the table from Russia's point of view is that it gets to hold on to whatever Ukrainian territory it has been able to get in the last 3.5 years. That's 19% of the total landmass of Ukraine. Will Zelensky agree to that? Will the EU allies agree to that? Will NATO agree to that? The answer to that is going to be a vehement no, and that tells you that is it a deal breaker. Let's go back to Alison and Mitchell, who continue to be with me on the broadcast. Now, this is a question I throw open to both of you. We've seen a lot of optics at play. We've seen a lot of grand gestures, warm handshakes. All of that is there at play. But essentially, there is no peace formula. Where do we go from here beyond this big messaging that now Donald Trump is doing to Zelensky? Where does the world go from here? Where does the Ukraine-Russia conflict go from here? Mitchell, start first. Yeah.
Well, okay. I think we're going to a place where right now Trump and Putin have now rewarmed their relationship after, as you pointed out, a sort of rough patch where Trump got very angry and took some steps against Ukraine, against Putin. But I think we are not. I never really believed, I have to say, that a deal was going to come out of this meeting or any meeting anytime soon. I think a deal that ends this war is going to be an involved process that has to be directly involving both Ukraine and Russia, as well as Europe and the United States. That's not what we're seeing right now. So I don't see this being resolved. I do see the problem becoming more and more entrenched and more dangerous, frankly, for Ukraine as U.S. support for Ukraine becomes more and more tenuous. Once again, I go back to the fact that I don't see the United States coming up with the massive kind of aid packages that have been required for Ukraine just to sustain their losses at the level that they've already experienced them and not to lose more. So I think Ukraine is going to feel that its back is against the wall. They're going to turn to Europe, and the real question is how Europe decides to respond to this, because the only way Ukraine is going to have options is if Europe is willing to really step up in a way they have not, and I'm not sure they're even able to, but they certainly have not done so far.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, which also brings me to ask Alison this question about, here in India, here in New Delhi, we've been wondering as to why is it that Donald Trump just woke up one day and decided to impose additional 25% tariffs on importing Russian oil. India is not the only one, most certainly not the largest one, to be importing Russian oil. Many people try to say that it could be because of his growing frustration of not being able to close a deal with Vladimir Putin, and which is why he decided to impose these additional tariffs on India for importing Russian oil. Now, the question is, with no secondary sanctions being imposed afresh, though there was threat of it, do you think that there will now be further change in tack going forward in terms of how the Trump administration views Russia going forward in the wake of these fresh Bonhomme visuals and fresh threatening tone to Zelensky?
So I think the way the U.S. views Russia hasn't changed too much, but the way they've used how they can collaborate and move forward has changed. And if they have been able to reach some sort of broad spectrum agreements on certain critical issues for that bilateral and trilateral relationship with Ukraine, then there's this idea that they can move forward. In particular, with the case of India, I do think that a large part of the sanctions were due to this idea of trying to make an example out of India because of its role of being a strategic U.S. partner, because of its role of being a strategic Russian partner, sending that message.
I disagree, and I disagree very strongly. Okay. Which is that, this business of trying to make an example out of India is not going to work, because this also just exposes American hypocrisy. The fact that you tried to do this with China, it came back. They've also imposed their fresh tariffs on America. There's not a word on EU because you cannot do anything about it. EU imports the maximum amount of Russian oil and natural gas as well. So this just exposes hypocrisy on the Trump administration's part, and also the fact that India has responded. We are not going to agree to any trade deal till the time it is on our terms. It's as simple as that. So I take the part in terms of how this is likely to shape up the Trump administration's view going forward, but I disagree on the statement that you made with regard to India. On that note, stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We return with more updates and developments on this big story that we're tracking. Stay with us, viewers.
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा।
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसे हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है?
मैडम एक बात को खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report, we also saw NSE came out with a cautionary circular to the investors. Market Regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India has also come out with a release talking about the actions that it has taken. Cyber complaint has also been filed against the entities involved in this entire Dabba trading scam.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools and lead with impact. Starts August the 23rd. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
And you know, that's why it's being said that after Kahuna Pyare, this is the film that has got two superstar debutants who are becoming superstars. But what was this faith that you had on these two that you know that shows on screen?
You know, you don't plan to make a blockbuster. You plan to make a good film. And that's what I think they never let me, you know, they didn't put that pressure on me to live up to. They never gave me a number that we have to hit or a so-called figure that I have to open to. There was all these trappings were just not there, which normally producers do end up putting that pressure. You know, then you make wrong things. Then you add a song for a shadi song, add a Punjabi song. All these trappings were not there in this film. They were like, just go there and make your film. Do this script. We love this script and make it honestly. And I think the minute that happened, a filmmaker I could just spread my wings and just go out, not worrying about a few. I think when you do that, you get a little more fearless, and then that's what got picked up by people. So I cast appropriate for the film. I didn't cast thinking. I cast what felt right.
You were saying that you are going to say no to him.
Yeah. But that's his fault. Huh? He was now you see, now that we can talk about the film, Krish Kapoor cannot be a timid, sweet boy.
Yes,
sir, how are you, sir?
Last time we spoke.
Yeah, and I was like, what is this guy? He was a sweet boy. And then by the end of the night, I could see the boisterous self, and I could see the Krish Kapoor who could stand on top and say, don't forget this name, it's Krish Kapoor. So I think I was looking for that a bit. I needed a spark of that.
Pulling us into this country. They argue, I conclude. They deflect. I drill down. This isn't a free-for-all. It's a reckoning. No filler, no fog. Only the facts and where they lead. Every night at 9, the case closes because the buck stops here.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years.
Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years, covering the corridors of power, what is said, what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux from conflict to India's crowning glory. I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
Mohit, you are known for your music. All your films, musics stay with us till today. I'm a millennial and those music are kind of music. So whenever we say Mohit Suri film aa raha hai, we know the music will be good, right? It's a given. So you really work hard. But is this always like how you create your music? You need everything in place, the mood, the lighting, even when the person is in the studio and just singing. And also, how did you select your musicians that this person's voice is perfect for this song?
That's what I think, the amount you give to a song, that's how long it will last, I think. Everyone does the programming, everyone writes the words, everyone makes the thing. But the thing is how much you give, how much of heart you give to the lyrics or to the music or to the melody or to the singing. That's how long the song will last, is what I genuinely feel. If you don't give that love, you're not going to get it back. It's just a simple debit and credit procedure, I think, with the audience. I genuinely feel I don't have any special skill. I don't know any scale or anything else. It's just that I enjoy that process a lot. Give me an evening to just go for a film party or something, I'll skip it. But you give me like a struggling musician to go who has a great tune, some new guys, chill all night with them. I can do that. I can just sit there, make music and stuff like that. We just did that recently. Fahim came down. He just surprised us, and we met in my Bandra office. And Han was there, Aneet was there, and he made me hear his other songs and stuff like that. But it was it's so much fun. Because I just think making music, film, you still get to see something. Yeah. I think music is so amazing. You
don't need to see anything.
It's in the air and suddenly it just comes together and it's just, you can just feel it. And something you hear makes you feel something. It's just magical.
NDTV 24/7 is India's #1 English news channel on YouTube. Credible, compelling, always ahead of the curve. Thank you for choosing NDTV 24/7 as your trusted source for news.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India.
Hello and welcome to our very special broadcast of the ICE Summit in Alaska between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. On your screens are those visuals that tell the story, from the handshakes to the red carpet welcome to the ride together in the Beast and the press conference at the end, which was short and crisp but gave way to a potential second summit. We tell you all that and more, but first up, let's start the show with headlines that are coming in this Saturday morning. The Trump-Putin meeting wraps up. The high-stakes meeting does not lead to any deal as Putin offers to host Trump next time in Moscow. No peace deal announced in the Putin-Trump meeting, from Alaska with ambiguity. Talks end tensions remain. Reporter questions are also not taken by the two leaders. Big relief for Russia. Trump delays threatened sanctions. Donald Trump says may think about sanctions over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks. Trump's big message to Ukrainian President Zelensky after Alaska summit says and puts the onus on Zelensky, says now up to Ukrainian president to get the deal done. Over 60 killed, 500 feared trapped due to the Kishtwar cloudburst. Jammu Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah reaches Kishtwar. Prime Minister Modi assures full support. NDTV live from Ground Zero from Kishtwar. Big story, viewers. Today, this morning, the world has been keeping a very close watch on whether that crucial summit that took place hours ago between Trump and Putin would yield to any conclusive roadmap towards ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict. That hasn't been the case, but there was a lot of bonhomie at play. The smiles, the handshakes, the drive together, the short drive together in the Beast, the car of the US president, all of that on your screens in Alaska 2025, which played host to that very important meeting. The first time the Russian president set foot on American soil. Alaska was important for various reasons, from cultural to historical aspects, all of which Vladimir Putin was quick to belabor on and point in detail. He even went to a World War era cemetery to honor Soviet soldiers, once again belaboring the point about the shared history and culture of Alaska. But at the end of the day, no ceasefire, no deal. No one knows how the Russia-Ukraine conflict will end from here. What we do know is possibility of a second summit that may actually take place in Moscow. To get all the optics right, Russian president suggested the meeting to be in Moscow in English for the world to take note of. Let's first play out some of those important sound bites of what really happened at that press conference, and then we decode this in greater detail. Let's start with Donald Trump and the big headline that came out of it, which is that there is no deal till the time there's actually one.
I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe. Thank you very much.
All right, on the red carpet, the Russian president was asked some tough questions from the reporters who asked whether or not he'll stop killing Ukrainians, given the fact that the military momentum right now is with the Russian forces. He appeared to not hear the question itself. Take a look.
Mr. Putin, did you underestimate Ukraine? President Putin, will you stop killing civilians? President Putin, how can the U.S. trust your word?
All right, let's play out snippets of that very important press briefing that took place earlier in the day. The two leaders made statements, did not choose to take any questions from reporters. Listen into some of the highlights of that press briefing.
Today, when President Trump saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, businesslike and trustworthy contact. And I have every reason to believe that moving down this path, we can come, and the sooner the better, to the end of the conflict in Ukraine. Thank you. As I've said, the situation in Ukraine has to do with fundamental threats to our security. Moreover, we've always considered the Ukrainian nation, and I've said it multiple times, a brotherly nation, however strange it may sound in these conditions. We have the same roots, and everything that's happening is a tragedy for us and terrible wound. Therefore, the country is sincerely interested in putting an end to it. At the same time, we're convinced that in order to make the settlement lasting and long-term, we need to eliminate all the primary roots, the primary causes of that conflict. And we've said it multiple times, to consider all legitimate concerns of Russia and to reinstate a just balance of security in Europe and in the world on the whole. And I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally, we're prepared to work on that.
I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think, you know, everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, whose faces, who I know in many cases, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good, productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all.
All right, that was President Trump, where he made it clear that he would get heat for going to Russia, but he also said that he could work around it. Let's now get in Maha Siddiqui, my colleague who's been on ground covering the summit in Anchorage in Alaska, giving us a lowdown of what really happened and how things look from here on.
The meeting that went on for over 2.5 hours between President Trump and President Putin, along with 2 members each in their delegation, ended up with no deal here at the joint base, the joint U.S. military base in Anchorage. This meeting, which was quoted as a high-stakes meeting, which was highly anticipated, ended up with no deal or ceasefire. And President Trump said, till there is a deal, there is no deal, which means that now the delegations, and specifically President Trump himself, he said, will be talking to NATO and the Ukraine president, and therefore, after that, take the talk forward. He did mention that there were some points on which there has been an agreement. However, there is one critical point on which they could not reach an agreement. They were close to it. What this point is was not outlined by either side in a joint press conference that took place with President Putin starting the press conference rather than President Trump, who's the host of the meeting over here. Meanwhile, President Trump also called the meeting extremely productive and indicated that this could perhaps lead to further meetings if once he speaks to the Ukrainian president and NATO and tells them about what has transpired in this meeting to see whether there is any forward movement, any next meeting that can take place. And President Putin, in fact, when there was a conversation about President Trump and President Putin meeting, indicated that the next meeting between them could happen in Moscow. Meanwhile, President Putin once again reiterated some of the points that he has made in the past already about the root or the primary causes of this war in Ukraine. He's already spoken about that in the past, and some of these aspects have not been brought by the Europeans. They say that the issue of Ukraine becoming a member of NATO was not one of the reasons or motives for Russia's aggression of Ukraine. Now, if that is one of the root causes that President Putin has pointed out today, then the impasse will continue because that's an argument that has already been made and not bought by Europe or even Ukraine. Moreover, President Trump also spoke about the issues between Russia and the United States. President Putin also mentioning that these 2 countries specifically had a lot that could take them forward in having or forging economic deals, trading better in the tech sector specifically is one he mentioned. So was this meeting only about Ukraine, or was the agenda also encompassing bilateral issues between US and Russia? It appears from what they said during the press conference that even that was an aspect that was discussed. So there were several issues that were discussed during this meeting. There were optics that played out, which will be discussed constantly. For instance, the red carpet, the handshake on the red carpet between the 2 leaders. President Putin being given a ride by President Trump in his car, the Beast, and also the big smile on President Trump's face when there was a photo op just before the meeting. All these aspects will be keenly discussed and analyzed, but the big question is, will this lead to a next meeting between the 2 sides, and can that ultimately end the war in Ukraine? In Anchorage, this is Maha Siddiqui for NDTV.
We also spoke with Maha on the optics part of it, and that in fact is a very important and a crucial part of messaging and something that Putin went an extra mile to ensure that he got all of it right, whether it is about the red carpet welcome, the bonhomie, riding the beast, to also getting to speak ahead of Donald Trump. When was the last time you actually had a foreign leader getting to speak before the host leader? Very rarely does that happen. Maha tells us the significance of those optics and play and how should one be reading those.
The optics of this meeting are going to be discussed for some time to come, especially because of many reasons that have cropped up during this meeting between President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump. Starting off with the choice of the venue itself, this being a US joint military base and a very strategic one that in fact displays the power of America in this region, in this Arctic region, for that to host the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, in itself was something that was being discussed by many, including the people in Alaska itself. And the optics that played out today, starting with a red carpet, a warm handshake on the red carpet, not just one handshake, but two, one for the camera as well. And then that being led to a ride that was given by President Donald Trump to President Vladimir Putin in his car, the Beast, to the venue. And finally, the broad smile of President Donald Trump just before the meeting of the two leaders started, along with their delegation of two leaders each. All these optics are going to be discussed for some time to come, as well as the fact that President Putin made an offer to President Donald Trump to have a meeting in Moscow. And President Trump responding by saying that this is going to generate a lot of heat, but perhaps it's possible. So all these issues, considering the past relationship between the US and Russia, the Cold War period that not many have forgotten, all this playing up into the meeting today that took place in Anchorage in Alaska.
Now let's talk about the developments that have happened ever since that summit concluded. Donald Trump has already put out a statement. In fact, in an interview that he gave to an American network, he said that the onus now lies on the Ukrainian president to close it. Now, what does that mean? Going into this summit, there was a huge apprehension, particularly in Europe, that not only is Ukraine not part of any discussions, there could be some pressure for Ukraine to give up the territory that is currently under Russian control. Now, that adds up to about 19% of total Ukraine territory. Now, if that happens, how is that likely to pan out in terms of any potential solution? Because this is a deal breaker. Let's listen in to what exactly Donald Trump said in terms of why this is now Zelensky's headache to close the deal.
I mean, we were together almost 3 hours, and it was very extensive, and we agreed on a lot of points. I mean, a lot of points were agreed on, but there's not that much. There's, one or two pretty significant items, but I think they can be reached. Now it's really up to President Zelensky to get it done. And I would also say the European nations, they have to get involved a little bit, but it's up to President Zelensky. I think we are, and if they'd like, I'll be at that next meeting. They're going to set up a meeting now between President Zelensky and President Putin. And myself, I guess, I didn't ask you about it. Not that I want to be there, but I want to make sure it gets done. And we have a pretty good chance of getting it done.
That is a very important takeaway in terms of what Donald Trump now sees as the future of closing in and ending the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Now, going into this summit, there was hard posturing from Trump's side, where he said that if Russia doesn't agree, there'll be very hard consequences. Devastating consequences was the kind of messaging that Donald Trump gave to Russia ahead of that meeting. But there's been a complete change of stance after over 2.5 hours when the two leaders spoke at length, the longest they have face-to-face. There's been a complete change in tack, with now Donald Trump saying that Ukraine will have to then identify and close that deal. Now, the other big story, the other big takeaway of this is that he has delayed the sanctions that he spoke about earlier. Even going into this meeting, he had said that there will be devastating secondary sanctions that could be imposed on Russia if they don't accept what would be Donald Trump's peace formula for the Russia-Ukraine conflict. That hasn't happened. Far from it. There was no mention of sanctions. There was only mention of bonhomie, and there was display of handshakes and warm gestures. No threatening sanctions being spoken about. Now, what does that mean? How does that add up going forward? And also, most importantly, the impact this is likely to have in terms of India. Those are questions that we will continue to decode for you viewers and try and get answers to, because this impacts New Delhi simply because of the very irrational, irresponsible measures taken by the Trump administration to single out India, even as it is not the largest importer of Russian oil. But there's relief coming in from Russia, for Russia right now, with no sanctions being imposed. Let's also now get in our guest joining us on the broadcast. Michael Feller, Kamran Bukhari, who will speak to us in terms of what this means, how things add up right now, and whether or not there will actually be a peace formula going forward, and what would that be if not swapping of territories, which is what Russia wants, which is what Ukraine will not allow, and something that EU and NATO allies have been resisting all along. All right. Before we get in, Michael, as well as Kamran Bukhari, let's tell our viewers in terms of the 5 big takeaways that are there. The first and foremost takeaway of these summit today. First, the positive signs, but no deal. Now, this is something very important. As we've been talking about the body language, that's been extremely positive, but there's no deal on the table. Let's remember that. And in Donald Trump's words, if there is no deal, there isn't one to talk about. Let's move ahead and tell you the other big takeaway of this meeting. Second one, no word on a Zelensky meeting. Going into the summit, Donald Trump had said that the second summit would have Zelensky as well. But that hasn't been spoken about today when the meeting ended. It only ended with the possibility of the second summit taking place in Moscow, and Zelensky is unlikely to be part of that. Now, the third key takeaway is that Putin said that Ukraine's security must be ensured. He spoke at length about also in that short briefing. He did mention a lot about Ukraine being, the brothers for Russia. There is a certain historical connection there. And in relation to that, this was an important takeaway that he mentioned. In fact, if we have, I believe we also have the RT stand-up. We also have a short walkthrough that has been done by Russia Today's correspondent Igor Piskunov to talk more about what this means, the takeaways that we are talking about here. Let's listen into what Igor had to say. We come back and talk more on this.
Well, I have to start by saying that it was quite an interesting culmination of this historic meeting between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump here in Anchorage. A bit unexpected because journalists were expecting to be given an opportunity to ask some questions, but the two presidents apparently decided just to refrain themselves with making statements without receiving any questions. But I think the general tone of that final news conference coincided with the general vibe of the entire meeting. And it's, I think, about, I wouldn't call it friendship, perhaps that would be too early, but it's definitely about companionship, starting from how Vladimir Putin was greeted here. And we talked about this quite some time, but I still want to repeat it, that the show that the American side, the receiving side, really put on, involving the fighter jets accompanying Putin's plane and then the simultaneous exit of both presidents from their airplanes on their airstrip, them walking towards one another, shaking hands, smiling, having a small conversation, and then suddenly and unexpectedly Donald Trump asking Vladimir Putin to get into his car and then driving him off to start that official part of the meeting. So there's a lot of unexpected events happening here, and I think in that sense, the final news conference also coincided with that atmosphere. But we know from both leaders that they obviously discussed bilateral relations, and Vladimir Putin started the news conference by calling Donald Trump his neighbor, and he said that is definitely a positive thing in this relationship. Donald Trump, it seemed, was quite optimistic about the meeting, and he was also saying that he wants to continue these contacts with Russia, and he said that it could happen very soon. In fact, Vladimir Putin ended his statement by inviting Donald Trump to Moscow, to which the American president had quite an interesting reaction. He said he's probably going to get a lot of heat for that.
So that was, remember, the Russia Today correspondent reporting from Anchorage. So this is a lot of Russian view as well that we wanted to put out for our viewers to understand, not the view of NDTV. Let's now get in Michael Feller, co-founder, chief strategist of Geopolitical Strategy, joining us on the broadcast from Melbourne. Michael, how do you read the summit? Who holds the cards is something I'm going to come to in just a bit. But your thoughts on the summit, and following that, Donald Trump's pressure tactics, where he's now asking Zelensky to say essentially that you've got to accept the deal for it to move ahead.
Yeah, thanks, and good to be here again. So I see this very much as, while Trump was emphasizing that a deal hadn't been reached, the fact that he's now putting this upon Zelensky, it does sound like a deal was reached, at least between Putin and Trump. And now it seems that they're jointly offering this to Ukraine and Europe. So quite an extraordinary turn of events, in my view. I wasn't expecting them to get that far. Trump, of course, was describing this initially as a listening meeting to feel out Vladimir Putin, but it seems that in their 2.5 hours alone in a room, they seem to have prepared some kind of joint proposal for Zelensky. So yeah, we'll see in the days ahead.
Mm-hmm. Days ahead, there seems to be, and also some reports indicate, Michael, that it was actually Russia's peace formula that came up on the table for discussions, or could be potentially the starting point. If that were so, if I'm saying, because we don't have a formal word on that, there are reports indicating that, if that were the case, that it was the Russian formula that was the starting point of negotiations, that itself gives Russia an upper hand in the conflict negotiations and resolution, doesn't it?
Yes, it would be very worrying in Kiev and Brussels that Russia's formulation, which has been fairly consistent over the last year or so, essentially Crimea plus 4 oblasts in the east, plus NATO's exit from Ukraine, Ukraine's neutrality. That's not a good deal from Zelensky's perspective, I would think. And further, it would require Zelensky to hold a referendum for constitutional change to give up those territories. And presumably at the same time, we would see a Ukrainian presidential election. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too happy if I were him.
Indeed. Now, which also brings me to ask that the shockwaves that must have gone up in all European capitals after the possibility of the second summit being in Moscow, which also rules out any presence of Ukraine whatsoever. It potentially then means a continuation of the talks that happened between Russia and USA today, and that would continue going forward. And which would also mean that this is more about the bilateral relationship between the two countries than about conflict resolution.
Yeah, I very much doubt there will be a meeting in Moscow, because Trump said it himself, he would get too much domestic heat for that. You know, what he calls the Russia hoax, or the claims of the Kremlin's electoral interference in 2016. Further, as you pointed out, Zelensky can't be expected to go to Moscow either. So whilst there may be future bilateral US-Russia summits, whether in Moscow or elsewhere, for the purposes of a Ukraine deal, I expect the next meeting, trilateral or otherwise, will have to be in a more neutral place, whether it's Alaska again, or whether it's back in the Middle East, where analysts initially thought such a meeting would be held.
Indeed, it was expected to be in UAE originally, this summit. And let's get in Dr. Kamran Bukhari as well. He's joining us from Virginia, near Washington, D.C. He's the senior director at the New Lines Institute for Strategy and Policy, to talk more about what could be the venue of the next summit. But, before I get in, Dr. Bukhari, let's complete the loop here and complete the conversation, Michael, which is that if things were to go from here forward, which direction do you expect that to be? Do you think it's going to be around Ukraine being asked to get the territory swap going, finish the process of conflict resolution, because Trump is unlikely to bankroll any of Ukraine's military needs going forward?
Well, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because my biases are with Ukraine, but I think that Ukraine will lose.
But the whole job of being a strategist is that you've got to keep your biases aside. But go ahead, yeah.
Or at least declare them at the outset. But I do think that Ukraine will have to either accept a deal or see those territories lost in conflict. Russia in recent days has broken through the eastern lines near Pokrovsk or north of Pokrovsk, which is the so-called fortress city in Ukraine's east. So. Right. Yeah, I see that is inevitable, really.
Michael, I've got someone who's got a bias in favor of Donald Trump as well for you on the broadcast. Let's get in Matt Klink to talk more about which way this is likely to end. He's joining us from California, a Republican strategist. Matt, now, since we've spoken in the last couple of hours, there's updates that have come in after the summit. The Donald Trump has spoken to an American network and has said that now it's up to the Ukrainian president, Zelensky, to accept the deal. What deal are we talking about? It's back to territory swaps, something that is a no-go for Ukraine, for Europe.
You're assuming that that's the case. Again, I watched that interview, and Donald Trump was very coy about saying anything specific until he talks with President Zelensky. So I will add, I heard your conversation a minute ago. I can pretty much, the only thing I can guarantee is that if there is a next meeting, it will not be in Moscow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're not talking about the fact that Moscow may or may not be the case. That has its own set of caveats. But I want to focus on how this war is likely to end. There is a sense that there is some amount of pressure tactics being imposed or on Ukraine, on Zelensky, in the wake of what was a very cordial summit between Trump and Putin. Is that how you see it?
It was a very, very friendly summit between both presidents. What I can tell you is that Donald Trump, as a businessman, always looks at leverage. And right now, America has leverage on both parties. We have leverage on Ukraine because Ukraine ultimately needs our weaponry and our money to fight this war to basically a standstill. And Trump has leverage on Putin because if he reimposes primary sanctions or imposes primary and secondary sanctions, he can do significant damage to the Russian economy. Now, what Donald Trump is hoping is that none of that has to occur and that phase two would be a tripartite meeting between Zelensky, Trump, and Putin. And at that point, the least the two people are talking, they hate each other, at least get them in the same room. And that's how peace is made. Right. But I think your colleague is right that ultimately, if peace is not negotiated, Russia is going to continue to slowly, and the underline on the word slowly, erode Ukraine's capabilities.
All right. Let's leave it there. Always a pleasure to have Matt Klink and Michael Feller on the broadcast to talk more about which way this is set to go from here. We don't know. The world doesn't know. Most certainly, Ukrainian President Zelensky also has no clue at this stage. His country's fate was being decided without him being in the room. On that note, viewers, a quick break. We return with more stories and more updates on the other side of this broadcast. Stay with us.
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
Vanakkam Tamil Nadu.
Now the battle for Tamil Nadu 2026 is open now.
After Chief Minister Stalin rolls up his sleeves and Vijay steps in as a star challenger.
This is a mass gathering
not for cash.
Meanwhile, a former Chief Minister, Edapadi Palanisamy, begins his fight back.
The big comeback campaign by EPS has well and truly begun.
These are all the ultimate players, and this is going to be the ultimate test.
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा.
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसे हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है.
मैडम एक बात को खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report, we also saw NSE came out with a cautionary circular to the investors. Market Regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India has also come out with a release talking about the actions that it has taken. Cyber complaint has also been filed against the entities involved in this entire dabba trading scam.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools and lead with impact. Starts August the 23rd. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
And you know, that's why it's being said that after Kahuna Pyare, this is the film that has got two superstar debutants who are becoming superstars. But what was this faith that you had on these two that you know that shows on screen?
You know, you don't plan to make a blockbuster. You plan to make a good film. And that's what I think they never let me, you know, they didn't put that pressure on me to live up to. They never gave me a number that we have to hit or a so-called figure that I have to open to. There was all these trappings were just not there, which normally producers do end up putting that pressure. You know, then you make wrong things. Then you add a song for a shadi song, add a Punjabi song. All these trappings were not there in this film. They were like, just go there and make your film. Do this script. We love this script and make it honestly. And I think the minute that happened,
well, welcome back. This is Reet Kaur Sahani and you're watching NDTV. Now, we've seen breaking news coming in at this point in time. Prime Minister Narendra Modi remembered former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Of course, this is on Atal Bihari Vajpayee's death anniversary. The Prime Minister, as you can see on your screen, has paid tribute to the former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who passed away at the age of 93, of course, in the year 2018. He passed away at AIIMS, Delhi. Apart from the Prime Minister, there were several other leaders in attendance to pay tribute, like the President Draupadi Murmu, Union Ministers Kiran Rijiju, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, as well as JDU MP Sanjay Jha and Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta. Remember, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was one of the tallest leaders of Indian politics and a founding member of the Bharatiya Janata Party and passed away at the age of 93 on the 16th of August in 2018. Well, on this, we have my colleague Himanshu joining us on the telecast. Well, of course, Himanshu, the PM has paid tribute to the late former Prime Minister Vajpayee. Help us understand the legacy of the former Prime Minister Vajpayee. How instrumental has he been in shaping BJP to become what it is today?
He was the first BJP Prime Minister, and we do know that he is seen as a leader who made the experiment in coalition politics successful. There was a time when more than 25 parties were part of his coalition, and he was seen as a man who could unite India. He was seen as a leader who had friends and who was respected across the political spectrum. I remember there was a time when left leaders used to tell us that the existing BJP leadership should learn from Vajpayee, and that is the kind of respect he commanded in the political space. First Prime Minister, awarded with Bharat Ratna later, and he actually, in a way, showed that it was possible to run a coalition government in India, and he was Prime Minister for 6 years. I have had the privilege of traveling with him to a few countries, and with the conversations that we always had with the Prime Minister, he was, as a very forthright leader, a great communicator, who would not hide things. He would like the world to debate with him. He was very open with his ideas. And that is the reflection that we see today on his Punyatithi, when at his memorial at Sadaiv Atal, several leaders, Prime Minister, President, Lok Sabha Speaker, several union ministers, BJP top leaders. He shaped many lives in the political space. And the kind of respect that Vajpayee commanded can be seen now on his Punyatithi. And Prime Minister Modi, in a post on X, has very categorically said that Vajpayee's dedication and spirit of service towards the all-round progress of India continue to inspire everyone in building a developed and self-reliant India. So he is a leader who continues to inspire the country, the top BJP leadership.
Right, Himanshu, thank you so much for joining us and sharing those details with us. Well, tragedy has struck the picturesque Kishtwar region of Jammu and Kashmir, a region now gripped by grief, chaos and an urgent race against time. At least 60 people have been confirmed dead and at least 100 have been injured, with nearly 500 still missing after nature unleashed its fury. What was once a quiet mountainous district is now ground zero for one of the worst disasters in recent years. Rescue operations are in full swing. The Army, NDRF and local volunteers are braving treacherous terrain, unstable slopes as well as unpredictable weather to reach those who have been trapped. The Chief Minister as well as the Minister of State have rushed to the site overseeing relief measures, even as anguished families scour to makeshift shelters and hospitals for their loved ones. While our reporters are bringing you the latest from the ground, the visuals, voices and the human stories from Kishtwar, which every passing hour is critical. This, of course, is a story of resilience, loss and a desperate bid to save lives before it's too late. Well, on this is my colleague Shreya joining us on the telecast. Shreya, of course, I need to understand from you that, you are reporting from the impacted region, as we can see. Now, how are the rescue operations coming along?
Well, Reed, I am right now in Jashodhi village, which has left a trail of death, devastation and destruction, and intensified rescue operations are taking place. Right now, I am with the pilgrims who went to the Mata Machel temple, and they were stuck there for almost 3-4 days, and now they are heading back to their home ground, back to Kishtwar town. And of course, you can see the visuals of the JCBs, heavy machinery that have been deployed for the rescue operation to take place. Let me tell you, 51 people have died. Almost 160 people have been rescued. Several of them are injured. Over 200 people are still missing, and people are saying they're all buried under this debris, which the officials are trying to clear at this point. In some time from now, we will see Chief Minister Omar Abdullah coming and visiting the spot alongside Minister of State Jitendra Singh, and we can see the convoy is here. The officials are coming, but I will speak to the pilgrims first. भैया, आप बताइए, आप कब इधर आए थे, क्या आपने देखा, कितने दिन से आप फंसे हुए थे?
मैम, हम यहाँ से तकरीबन 2 घंटे पहले निकल गए थे यहाँ से,
तो वहाँ पे बाद में हमें वहाँ पे न्यूज़ आती है कि ऐसा क्लाउड बस्ट हुआ है, काफ़ी लोग बह गए हैं। तो वहाँ पे जो लोग थे वो काफ़ी पैनिक हो गए। तो कुछ लोग तो मतलब निकल गए, कल निकल गए।
कितने लोग उधर थे?
अराउंड 1000 थे वहाँ पे उस टाइम पे, शायद 1000 से ज़्यादा भी हो सकते हैं। हाँ, तो लेकिन कल आगे लोग यहाँ पे वापस आ गए और यहाँ पे काफ़ी रश हो गया था, उन्होंने कुछ लोगों को वापस भेज दिया। हाँ, तो फिर अभी सुबह लोग आए हैं, अराउंड 500 होंगे, तो वो अभी आ रहे हैं।
थैंक यू सो मच एनडीटीवी के साथ बात करने के लिए। कॉन्स्टेंट रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशंस आर अंडरवे। यू कैन सी द विजुअल्स हियर. इट्स completely chaotic. It used to be a peaceful, scenic Jashodi village that serves as a base camp to the pilgrims who are heading to the Machel Mata temple to offer prayers to Ma Chandi. But of course, what was supposed to be a sacred journey turned into a complete tragedy. You can see the JCBs are lined up here, and these makeshift tents have been put up here to offer food and shelter to the rescue teams who are here. It is the J&K police, Indian Army, NDRF, SDRF members who are here, who are continuously working. And of course, this is a story of heartbreak, but resilience at the same time. Back to you.
Right, Shreya, we hope the situation normalizes soon. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing those details with us. Well, tracking some breaking news at this point for you, the Indian Meteorological Department, or the IMD, has issued a red alert for Mumbai as the city grapples with waterlogging in several areas. Now, between August 15th and August 16th of this year, Mumbai recorded heavy rainfall with average total of 99.6 millimeters in the city. The BMC has advised residents to avoid stepping out unless necessary. Overnight showers have led to severe waterlogging in several parts of the city, including the Milan, Subway, Kurla, Chembur, Gandhi Market, as well as Andheri. Now, rain is expected to intensify in the Palghar from Sunday and continue till August 19th. Well, on this, we have my colleague Sujata joining us on the telecast. Sujata, how exactly is the situation looking like in Mumbai, and how has this impacted day-to-day functions of the city?
Well, certainly, and to start with, we know that last night, since 11 p.m. until morning till 6, these 6 hours, Mumbai received intensifying rainfall, after which several waterlogging locations in Mumbai were completely, jammed because of waterlogging. And at this point, I'm here at the Andheri subway, one of the regions in the Mumbai suburbs where usually, with just 50 mm of rainfall, we see the subway to be completely waterlogged and shut for traffic, and we saw that happening today as well, where until morning this was completely shut for traffic, and thereafter, now that the water has drained out, the subway has been reopened again. But if the rainfall persists and continues in this manner, the subway can be shut again for vehicular movement. And not just this, but also the IMD has predicted a red alert for the entire Mumbai city, because of which areas like Dadar, Gandhi Market, Sion, and as well as Kurla and LBS Marg are completely waterlogged, because of which, being a weekend, yet the festive season, people are coming out of their homes to enjoy the Dahi Handi festivity. But because of the waterlogging situations, people have been restricted to not go to the areas which are low-lying and where waterlogging can become a problem, and because of which people have been advised by the Mumbai police as well as the BMC to plan their movement accordingly and thereafter leave their homes. And so far, it is in Vikhroli where an incident has been reported where 2 people were killed in a landslide, and thereafter rescue operations are currently underway and 2 people are currently being treated at the hospital. Back to you.
Right, Sujata, thank you so much for joining us and sharing those details with us. Well, switching tracks to other stories, India is set to witness major reforms in the GST regime this year. PM Modi, on the occasion of Independence Day, promised that the next generation reforms would drop by before Diwali, assuring a massive reduction in taxes and on common use items. The centre has now unveiled a 3-pillar blueprint for the reforms that has been sent to the group of ministers for further discussions. The GST Council would take it up in its upcoming meeting. Let's in fact listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say.
इस दिवाली में आपकी डबल दिवाली का काम मैं करने वाला हूं। इस दिवाली में आपको एक बहुत बड़ा तोहफा देशवासियों को मिलने वाला है। पिछले 8 साल से हमने जीएसटी का बहुत बड़ा रिफॉर्म किया। पूरे देश में टैक्स के बर्डन को कम किया। टैक्स की व्यवस्थाओं को सरल किया और 8 साल के बाद समय की मांग है कि हम एक बार उसको रिव्यू करें। हमने एक हाई पावर कमेटी को बिठा करके रिव्यू शुरू किया, राज्यों से भी विचार विमर्श किया और मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, हम नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लेकर के आ रहे हैं। ये दिवाली के अंदर आपके लिए तोहफा बन जाएंगे। सामान्य मानवीय की जरूरतों के टैक्स भारी मात्रा में कम कर दिए जाएंगे। बहुत बड़ी सुविधा बढ़ेगी। हमारे एमएसएमई, हमारे लघु उद्यमी, इनको बहुत बड़ा लाभ मिलेगा। रोजमर्रा की चीजें बहुत सस्ती हो जाएगी और उससे इकोनॉमी को भी एक नया बल मिलने वाला है।
On GST reforms, Finance Ministry has sent a new proposal to the GOM of the GST Council. To talk more on this, I have with me economist Ved Jain. The sources have told us that Finance Ministry proposal includes reduction of GST slabs from the existing 4 to just 2. How do you see this?
I believe this is a need of the hour, and GST was introduced way back on 1st July 2017 with a clear notion, one nation, one tax. And it was expected ideally that the tax rate will be uniform across the country, and by and large there will not be many slabs. But looking to the compulsion at that time, the collection was a major issue. There was a contingency whether we will be able to generate enough revenue to meet the challenges of the state and the center. So we have proposed 4 tax rates, 5, 12, 18 and 28, and then some extra sin goods, etc. out there. Now I think after 8 years, the GST collection has stabilized. It has improved drastically. We have a very good collections, and by the system has also stabilized, and tax evasion enforcement mechanism all are in place, and this is the right time to give a boost to the economy by bringing the tax rate down and restructuring in the manner there is a little confusion about the tax rate. Ideally, I believe the tax rate should not be more than 2. One is a merit rate, certain goods which needs some concession for daily day-to-day consumption for middle class, poor men. As regards to 28%, I am of the view that these are the sin goods. And for that few items, the government can always have a particular rate, higher rate, in order to discourage the utilization, in order to discourage people not to go to tobacco or some chewing gums or something like this. That is the proposal. I believe that's the idea basically should be there.
Thank you very much for talking to NDTV. So the next challenge now before the centre will be to get the states on board on this major GST reform proposal. In Delhi with Sanjay Kaushik, Himanshu Shekhar for NDTV.
Well, with that, we're stepping into a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
Pulling us into this country.
They argue, I conclude. They deflect, I drill down. This isn't a free-for-all. It's a reckoning. No filler, no fog. Only the facts and where they lead. Every night at 9, the case closes because the buck stops here.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years.
Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years.
Covering the corridors of power, what is said, what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux from conflict to India's crowning glory. I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
Mohit, you are known for your music. All your films, musics stay with us till today. I'm a millennial and those music are kind of music. So whenever we say Mohit Suri film aa raha hai, we know the music will be good, right? It's a given. So you really work hard. But is this always like how you create your music? You need everything in place, the mood, the lighting, even when the person is in the studio and just singing. And also, how did you select your musicians that this person's voice is perfect for this song?
That's what I think, the amount you give to a song, that's how long it will last, I think. Everyone does the programming, everyone writes the words, everyone makes the thing. But the thing is how much you give, how much of heart you give to the lyrics or to the music or to the melody or to the singing. That's how long the song will last, is what I genuinely feel. If you don't give that love, you're not going to get it back. It's just a simple debit and credit procedure, I think, with the audience. I genuinely feel I don't have any special skill. I don't know any scale or anything else. It's just that I enjoy that process a lot. Give me an evening to just go for a film party or something, I'll skip it. But you give me like a struggling musician to go who has a great tune, some new guys, chill all night with them. I can do that. I can just sit there, make music and stuff like that. We just did that recently. Fahim came down. He just surprised us, and we met in my Bandra office. And Han was there, Aneet was there, and he made me hear his other songs and stuff like that. But it was it's so much fun. Because I just think making music, film, you still get to see something. Yeah. I think music is so amazing. You
don't need to see anything.
It's in the air, and suddenly it just comes together, and it's just, you can just feel it. And something you hear makes you feel something. It's just magical.
NDTV 24/7 is India's #1 English news channel on YouTube. Credible, compelling, always ahead of the curve. Thank you for choosing NDTV 24/7 as your trusted source for news.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
Vanakkam Tamil Nadu.
Now the battle for Tamil Nadu 2026 is open now.
After Chief Minister Stalin rolls up his sleeves and Vijay steps in as a star challenger.
This is a mass gathering, not for cash.
Meanwhile, a former Chief Minister, Edapadi Palanisamy, begins his fight back.
The big comeback campaign by EPS has well and truly begun.
These are all the ultimate players, and this is going to be the ultimate test.
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा.
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसे हल्का सा भी
Hello and welcome. This is Reet Kaur Sahani and you're watching NDTV. We've got an action-packed bulletin lined up just for you. But let's first take you through the headlines of the hour. Trump and Putin wrap up high-stakes meeting. Trump says no deal reached with Putin on Ukraine. Vladimir Putin also offers to host Trump the next time in Moscow. No peace deal announced in Putin-Trump meet from Alaska with ambiguity. Talks end and not the tensions. Big relief for Russia. Now Trump has delayed sanctions, which he'd of course earlier threatened towards Russia, and has said that he may rethink about the sanctions in the next 2 to 3 weeks. US President Donald Trump's message to Zelensky after the Alaska summit. Now Trump has put the onus on Zelensky and said that now it is up to Zelensky to get the deal done. Maharashtra rain, IMD issues red alert for Mumbai. Mumbai rain triggers landslide in Vikhroli, which has killed 2 people. Cloudburst in Jammu and Kashmir's Kishtwar, 60 killed and 500 fear trapped. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Umar Abdullah reaches Kishtwar, and as well as the PM assures full support. We're tracking the top story of the hour for you. The Indian Meteorological Department, or the IMD, has issued a red alert for Mumbai as the city grapples with waterlogging in several areas. Now, between August 15th and August 16, 2025, Mumbai has recorded heavy rainfall with average total of 99.6 millimeters in the city. Now, the BMC has advised residents to avoid stepping out unless absolutely necessary. Overnight showers have led to severe waterlogging in several parts of the city, including the Milan subway, Kurla, Chembur, Gandhi Market, as well as Andheri. Rain is expected to also intensify in the Palghar from Sunday and continue till the 19th of August. Well, we have my colleague Sujata joining us live on the telecast. Now, Sujata, help us understand how the situation is looking in the city and how exactly has this hampered day-to-day life in the city, of course.
Well, absolutely. And in the wake of the continuous rainfall in the city since last night, the IMD has now also upgraded its alert from orange to red, and people have been advised to not leave their homes unless and until it's very important. And at the same time, we've seen that waterlogging-like conditions have arose not only in the Mumbai western suburbs, but also in several areas like, the Dadar, the Gandhi Market, as well as in Sion, King Circle, etc. So there are multiple regions and spots which are completely waterlogged, and efforts are being made to ensure that people are safe, and just like the Mumbai Police too has released an advisory for people and alarming them that in wake of festive season they shouldn't just step out of their homes, and ensure that their safety and their family safety is at priority. At present, I'm here at the Andheri subway, which is also an area which is very prone to waterlogging, and in every monsoon we see that with just 50 mm of rainfall, this particular subway is completely waterlogged and shut for vehicular movement. And like you see that because of this being right under the railway line, it is also a very low-lying region, and because of which we see waterlogging happening here every year with every monsoon that comes. And like you see that not only just the subways but also the railway tracks are completely waterlogged at this point, especially between the Kurla region, where we saw that there's also a landslide that has occurred in Vikhroli, where 2 people lost their lives and 2 are currently injured and they are being treated. But at the same time, the BMC has ensured that the regions adjacent and right next to these homes onto the hilly regions, they are being shifted, and people have been asked to vacate their homes as soon as possible so that no such other untoward incident occurs. And this particular incident that has come up is in Vikhroli, where 2 people lost their lives, and 2 of the same people from the family are currently being treated at the Rajwari hospital. So definitely a red alert for the city, and traffic can be seen clearly getting impacted. Local trains are moving at with a delay of 10 to 15 minutes, whereas traffic like conditions will be seen on the western as well as the eastern express highway. And because it is the Gokul Ashtami festival today, people are coming out of their homes to celebrate this, and we see that often during this year Mumbai is completely jam-packed with people onto the roads to witness the breaking of the pot. But this time, because of the red alert, does this really happen, and will the BMC ensure that when it comes to their duties of cleaning and the sewage department, how do they handle this is also something to watch for. But so far so now, BMC agency has said that they are ensuring that all of the flood-prone regions are being treated at priority, and at the same time emergency services have also been kept on alert for people to call on the helpline number and seek help when and if required. Back to you.
Right, Sujata, thank you so much for joining us and sharing those details with us. Well, tragedy has struck the picturesque Kishtwar region of Jammu and Kashmir, a region now gripped by grief, chaos and an urgent race against time. Well, we're learning that the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has just reached the site. At least 60 people have been confirmed dead and at least 100 people have been injured, and nearly 500 people are still missing. Of course, on your screen right now are live visuals of the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, who has visited the site and is taking stock of the situation. But remember that what was once a quiet mountainous district is now ground zero for one of the worst disasters in recent years. Like I mentioned, the rescue operations are in full swing. The army, NDRF and local volunteers are braving treacherous rain, unstable slopes as well as unpredictable weather to reach those trapped. Of course, what's important is that amidst all of this, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has reached the site and is overseeing relief measures as anguished families are, of course, trying to look for their loved ones amid, of course, the landslide that has occurred in, the cloudburst, that has occurred in Kishtwar. Now, of course, NDTV has been reporting from the ground and we're bringing you the voices, the latest visuals, as well as human stories from Kishtwar, where, of course, every passing hour is extremely, extremely critical. This, of course, is a story of resilience, loss, and a desperate bid to save lives before it's too late. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, of course, on your screen at the moment.
60 के आसपास कंफर्म्ड जो डेड बॉडीज हमें मिली हैं और लापता लोगों की अभी सही तादाद जो है वो उसको हम फिलहाल असेस कर रहे हैं, लेकिन बहुत बड़ा हादसा हुआ है। रेस्क्यू और रिलीफ का काम खत्म होगा तो इस पे भी हमें इंक्वायर करना होगा कि आखिरकार जब हमें मौसम के हालात के बारे में हमें वार्निंग दी गई थी, यहाँ तक के मेट डिपार्टमेंट ने ये तक कहा था कि गैर ज़रूरी जो है घूमना जो है वो बंद करें। उसके बाद क्या एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की तरफ से कुछ कदम उठाए जा सकते थे जिससे कि हम ये कीमती जानें बचा सकें, उस पे ज़रूर हमें बैठ के जो है इस पे बातचीत करनी होगी।
I am joined by R.S. Patania, who is just here meeting people and talking to them. Tell us, what is the latest? You have been here.
On the directions of the Central Party High Command, today delegation led by BJP President Mr. Sat Sharma ji was here on a spot tour of the area. So we had tried to get the man ki baat of the people, how they have been affected, what exact measures do they want. Let's devise out a model. This is not the case that once we are pinched by tragedy, then we wake up. We should devise a model that such incidents do not happen. Even if such incidents happen, our preemptive measures should have been in place. One part. Secondly, so far as the relief and rehabilitation is concerned, we have ensured the local people. We have discussed the matter with the local administration also. We have transcended the message up to the top also.
There was a weather advisory and then there was a cloud burst. Suddenly, so many people were around in a small space and everybody was swept away or buried under the mountains of this slush. And
Sir, I think the establishment as well as the pilgrims both need to take a call on it. So this is not like we are just creating a rush hour. You just saw here some pilgrims running helter and skelter, vehicle. All of a sudden, so much of vehicles could not be arranged. So we should have patience. We should learn to behave properly. We should learn to be very, very responsible and very, very dutiful citizens of this country and particularly this area also. So this is a big hit, big strike on the pilgrimage tourism of Jammu region also. My deepest condolences and sympathies to those people who have lost their nears and dears, and I am hopeful we will be able to strike a way out and ultimately a model.
मम्मी और बहन को। हाँ जी, वो लोग अभी तक नहीं। ये बहन यही कपड़े पहने हैं, सेम ऐसी है, सेम ऐसे ही बने हैं। ऐसे ही
मैम एक्चुअली उस टाइम पे क्या हुआ कि हमें कोई पता नहीं था, जैसे हम बाहर से आए तो मैं भी इनके साथ आया, क्योंकि मैं ये इन्होंने बैग बच्चे वगैरह उठाए हुए थे, चल इनकी हेल्प कर देते हैं मैम। तो मैं वहाँ से आया मैम, सोचा जैसे मैं इनको गाड़ी में चढ़ा रहा था, जहाँ पे मैम लंगर लगा हुआ था, इनको गाड़ी में चढ़ा रहा था, मैम पता ही नहीं लगा एकदम मतलब ऐसे ना पहाड़ आ गया नीचे। जैसे मैंने जैसे वो आगे देखा पानी आया तो मैम मैंने इसका हाथ पकड़ा और एक बच्चा था इसके साथ, मैंने उसको गोदी में उठाया, मैंने इनको वहाँ से भगाया। जब इनको आगे छोड़ा मैम मैं वापस पीछे आया। मैं खुद मैम देखो अभी तक मैम उन्हीं पोजीशन में मैं खुद मैम मैं उसमें डब्बा हुआ था। कल के उनको ढूंढने नहीं मिले। 12 बजे रात को हम वहाँ से आ रहे हैं, अभी सुबह 7 बजे लेके मैं दरबार वापस गया तो उनको ढूंढने के लिए अनाउंसमेंट करवाई, हर चीज़ करवाई मैम, अभी पता कोई नहीं चला।
वहाँ पे हमें देखने का मौका ही नहीं मिला कि हमने अपनी जान ही बड़ी मुश्किल से बचाई है। बच्चों को हमने
बच्चे थे ना हमारे साथ छोटे छोटे, हमने पीछे देखा ही नहीं, फिर देखा नहीं, हमें ऐसा लगा 1 मिनट के लिए ऐसे लगा हम मर गए हैं।
1-2 बंदे को पूछा कि वो हमने दरबार में देखे, सुबह जब आरती हो रही थी तो कई लोगों को पूछ रहे हैं सुबह से फोटो दिखा के, कोई नहीं मान ही नहीं रहा, कोई कि नहीं देखा किसी ने।
As you heard from the 20-year-old Simi, like her, there are so many more, almost 500 people who are still missing from this place. With camera person Ashwini, this is Shreya Ghosh for NDTV.
US President Donald Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin met for about 2.5 hours on Friday at a summit in Alaska that started with a handshake, a smile and a ride in the presidential limousine. An unusually warm reception for a US adversary responsible for launching the largest land war in Europe since 1945. They later addressed a joint news conference after talking together with top advisors behind closed doors on efforts to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Now, Trump and Putin ended the joint press conference without taking questions or sharing details on talks of course, Ukraine's future. Now, US President Donald Trump said that him and Putin did not reach a deal to end Russia's war in Ukraine after a meeting on Friday, despite Putin saying that they had come to quote-unquote an understanding. As the two leaders offered scant details on what was discussed while heaping praise on one another. Let's in fact take a look at some of the reactions.
I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe. Thank you very much.
Mr. Putin, did you underestimate Ukraine? President Putin, will you stop killing civilians? President Putin, how can the U.S. trust your word?
Today, when President Trump saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. And I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, businesslike and trustworthy contact. And I have every reason to believe that moving down this path, we can come, and the sooner the better, to the end of the conflict in Ukraine. Thank you. As I've said, the situation in Ukraine has to do with fundamental threats to our security. Moreover, we've always considered the Ukrainian nation, and I've said it multiple times, a brotherly nation. However strange it may sound in these conditions, we have the same roots, and everything that's happening is a tragedy for us and terrible wound. Therefore, the country is sincerely interested in putting an end to it. At the same time, we're convinced that in order to make the settlement lasting and long-term, we need to eliminate all the primary roots the primary causes of that conflict, and we've said it multiple times, to consider all legitimate concerns of Russia and to reinstate a just balance of security in Europe and in the world on the whole. And I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally, we are prepared to work on that.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all.
For tracking more on this story, Trump and Putin have concluded a very elliptical news conference in which both leaders offered little clarity on what they agreed upon or didn't. The meeting ended several hours ahead of schedule, falling, of course, far short of the 6 or 7 hours of talks that Putin's aides had anticipated. It is highly unprecedented that a foreign leader speaks before the US president and for significantly longer. Both leaders spent much of their time highlighting US-Russia ties, but fell short of providing any clear details of the talks. The fact that they took no questions made it clear that they did not want it to be pressed on the details. It is also highly unusual for Trump to hold a formal press conference at which he takes no questions. It's also important to note that how crucial this meet was in Washington-Moscow reset. The Russian leader received applause from the US president as the red carpet was literally rolled out for Putin at the joint base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska. A stark contrast to Washington's previous rhetoric about isolating Russia since the war began. We're tracking more on this story after his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which reached, of course, an inconclusive deal. The US President Donald Trump, in an interview with Fox, has hinted towards a trilateral involving him as well as the Ukrainian and Russian leaders. Further, he's also put on the onus of the peace deal onto the Ukrainian President Zelensky, saying that it was now up to him to get the deal done. Let's, in fact, listen in.
I mean, we were together almost 3 hours, and it was very extensive, and we agreed on a lot of points. I mean, a lot of points we're agreed on. But there's not that much. There's, one or two pretty significant items, but I think they can be reached. Now it's really up to President Zelensky to get it done. And I would also say the European nations, they have to get involved a little bit, but it's up to President Zelensky. I think we are. And if they'd like, I'll be at that next meeting. They're going to set up a meeting now between President Zelensky and President Putin. And myself, I guess, I didn't ask you about it. Not that I want to be there, but I want to make sure it gets done. And we have a pretty good chance of getting it done.
We're tracking more on this story. US President Donald Trump signaled that he'd hold off imposing more sanctions or the other severe consequences against Russia after concluding that his meeting with Vladimir Putin today had gone very well. Now, he has said that because of what happened today, I think that I do not have to think about it now. Donald Trump said this in an interview with Fox News, and he said that he will think about the sanctions as well as what to do with Russia in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. He said that he will not be thinking about this at this point in time. Now, remember that Trump at some point had threatened to impose harsh sanctions on Russia earlier this month to pressure Putin to halt his war against Ukraine. But Trump backed off from, of course, the deadline after Putin agreed to meet with him face to face. Well, my colleague Vishal Vivek explains, of course, the big takeaways from this meeting. Let's, in fact, listen in.
Well, there are several takeaways after this Trump-Putin meet. The first one is that there's positive signs, but there's actually no deal. So what does that mean? This meet was mostly about optics. There were several things said, several glances exchanged. Both the leaders were all smiles. But at the end of the day, there's no deal. There's no word on ceasefire. There's no word on any land swap deal that Trump had been talking about. Moving on, there's no word on a Zelensky meeting as well. Although soon after this all-important meet, Trump had an interview with Fox News in which he said that there could be a meeting in which Trump and Zelensky both could be there, and also Putin could be there. So, which means a trilateral is possible. That will be one of the biggest developments if a trilateral is indeed done. And Putin has gone on to say that Ukraine's security must be ensured. This is one of the biggest things, one of the most important takeaways from the big meet, because he had not been, talking on these terms that Ukraine's security needs to be ensured, but he did tie that statement with some of its own security, some of his own security guarantees, on which he had, started the so-called special operations inside Ukraine. Moving on, Putin's comeback from Western isolation. So this is probably the most important point among all the takeaways, because Putin had been on the back foot from the Western front for almost a decade, and now he has broken through. He has met the most powerful leader in the world in his own backyard. That clears the way for Putin for many more meetings. This comes after several arrest warrants issued by the ICC. Lastly, Putin has proposed a next meeting in Moscow. This is a very crucial point, because whether Trump and Zelensky both agree to this meeting, that will be important. That will be a tall order for Putin, even though he has invited. And Trump did seem somewhat skeptical, so that this will have to be seen.
Well, we have some breaking news coming in at this point in time. Breaking news, in fact, coming in from Chennai. Well, there's ED heat on DMK minister at this point in time. The ED Chennai has, in fact, raided and is conducting search operations in Chennai at the premises of Minister Periyasamy and his family, including, of course, also his aide Senthil Kumar, who is an MLA. Now, these raids are occurring under the PMLA. Remember that Periyasamy is a Minister of Rural Development of Tamil Nadu and belongs, of course, to the ruling DMK. Of course, this is extremely big development coming in from Tamil Nadu, Chennai. We have my colleague Anushka joining us on the telecast to share more details with us. Anushka, of course, we're hearing about raids being conducted at, of course, the minister's house and his premises, as well as the house of one of his aides is also said to have been raided. What is the latest that we're tracking on this story?
That's right. The Enforcement Directorate on Saturday searched premises linked to Tamil Nadu Minister and DMK leader I. Periyasamy and his family as part of a money laundering investigation. Sources have said that his MLA son IT Senthil Kumar is being searched through the actions being taken under the provisions of PMLA. Periyasamy is the Minister for Rural Development, Panchayats and Panchayat Unions. So this is the reason that, in fact, we have been tracking, and this is still a developing story. As to, official sources have revealed that the raids are part of a money laundering investigation, and, along with him, his premises and the premises of his family, all of them are, in fact, right now being searched by the Enforcement Directorate on a money laundering case. More, information will be shared to us as the story progresses, but this is what we have been tracking recently. Over to you.
Right, Anushka, thank you so much for joining us and sharing those details with us. While with that, shifting focus to other news, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi remembered former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee on his death anniversary. Now, the Prime Minister also paid floral tributes to the former Prime Minister at the Sadaiv Atal, which is, of course, PM Vajpayee's memorial in Delhi. The visuals of which, of course, you can see at the screen at the moment. Well, apart from the PM, also those in attendance were President Draupadi Murmu, Union Ministers Kiran Rijiju, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat and JDU MP Sanjay Jha, and also Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta. Remember, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was one of the tallest leaders of Indian politics and a founding member of the Bharatiya Janata Party. He passed away at the age of 93 on August 16, 2018 at AIIMS, Delhi after a long illness. Well, Atal Bihari Vajpayee also served as the country's Prime Minister 3 times, for the first time a short term in 1996 and later for 2 full terms between 1998 as well as 2004. Well, with that, shifting tracks to other stories, a 5.25-kilometer stretch of the new promenade along the Mumbai coastal road is now open to public. It features viewing decks, broad footpaths, walking as well as jogging tracks, landscaped gardens, flowering plants, cycle tracks, and is also the first major sea-facing promenade in the city after the Marine Drive.
Mumbai seafront gets a brand new showstopper, a beautiful 5-kilometer long sea-facing promenade on Mumbai's coastal road. In fact, this extends from Priyadarshini Park to Worli, featuring viewing decks. In fact, from there people can soak in the beauty of the sea. There are also pedestrian pathways for people to just walk, and fun cycling tracks and extensive landscaping is something you're seeing on this particular promenade with its green space, gardens, plants. It is an eco-conscious recreation zones. In fact, benches are placed at regular intervals, inviting visitors to just pause and soak in the sea views. Of course, this is the first major promenade in the city after Marine Drive. In fact, this is more than double the size of Marine Drive. There are pedestrian underpasses at regular intervals. That's how a pedestrian can access this particular zone. So designed for both recreation as well as fitness, Mumbaikars now get a new destination to walk, jog, cycle and simply enjoy the breathtaking view of the sea.
Thank you, Sir Devendra Fadnavis. Thank you, Eknath Shinde sir. Thank you, Aditya Thackeray sir. Thank you to the entire government, past and present, for this beautiful walking track, cycling track. There is also a viewing deck which is going to be very soon functional. It's beautiful, well kept. Thank you, Reliance Foundation. And this is truly a pearl. Queen's necklace was there, but this is going to be Queen's pearl. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I think so. I can't pinpoint any mistake whatsoever. There's a beautiful cycling track. There is a beautiful walking track, and the greenery which they have put in. I really appreciate the effort by the government, and hats off to them. Please keep on doing everything. And one thing, just start enjoying it, public, citizen. Be neat, clean over here and start walking.
Well, with that, we're slipping into a very short break. Till then, stay tuned and keep watching NDTV.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools and lead with impact. Starts August the 23rd. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I
or
hold ICICI
for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
And you know, that's why it's being said that after Kahuna Pyare, this is the film that has got two superstar debutants who are becoming superstars. But what was this faith that you had on these two that you know that shows on screen?
You know, you don't plan to make a blockbuster. You plan to make a good film. And that's what I think they never let me, you know, they didn't put that pressure on me to live up to. They never gave me a number that we have to hit or a so-called figure that I have to open to. There was all these trappings were just not there, which normally producers do end up putting.
NDTV 24/7 is India's #1 English news channel on YouTube. Credible, compelling, always ahead of the curve. Thank you for pulling us.
They showcase some very exciting concepts. Let's take a look.
Homegrown car maker Mahindra & Mahindra on the occasion of Independence Day have laid out its Global Vision 2027. And to elaborate more on that, not one, not two, but 4 concepts have been showcased. All of them behind me. I'll take a closer look at them, explain what's on offer and also what really sets them apart from the existing Mahindra SUVs that you get in the market. Now behind all these concept SUVs, what underpins them is the highlight here. New iQ platform, a new platform that has been developed, and those are for the intentions that Mahindra wants to go global. First of them is the Vision S XT. This is a camper. This has got a carriage behind. It can be called a combination of a Thar and a Scorpio pickup, but it looks rugged, feels different, and overall it spans over 4.3 meters in length. Among all the SUV concepts showcased today, this might be the standout. The Vision T, as the name suggests, could be the Thar of the future. Could be available in both electric and ICE avatars, and design interpretation is quite digital, quite different from what we have seen. It's got different set of lights, the alloy wheels look rugged, and it's an upright stance. Now this is the Vision S, which means now the size decreases to sub 4 meter length. As you know, Mahindra is trying to get into a segment under 4 meters, the most happening SUV segment, and this one will do its trade exactly in the segment where the likes of Brezza, Venue and Sonnet makes their appeal felt. This one looks rugged, quite upright, boxy stance, and could well be a differentiator in terms of how Mahindra's future Bolero may look like. Last of the lot is the Vision X, which is again a sub 4 meter SUV, could well be the replacement for the existing Mahindra XUV 3XO. The design looks sharp, it's futuristic, got design elements that speak of genuinity, and also this one will make its presence felt in the same segment as the likes of Brezza and Venue. Now all these cars have the same platform, have a wheelbase of 2665mm, which is common among all these cars, and company promises these cars will be available in both ICE, these gasoline powered, and also electric avatars will also make their debut. While all these may look concept today, but 2027 is the time when all these will be starting to roll out from the factory, and the ambition is quite clear to make them appeal to the global masses. Now if you like the DC character Batman, there's something for you. It's super exclusive. This is for the first time where an Indian manufacturer has collaborated with Warner Bros. To give birth to a Batman edition. This is the BE6 Batman edition, priced at 27,80,000 rupees ex-showroom, based on the top-of-the-line BE6 Pack 3, which means battery pack is 79 kilowatt-hour rear-wheel drive, but it's the design, is the interior of the car which stands out. The highlight obviously is this satin custom black color. There's loads of customization options on it. To start off, there is this huge Batman decal on the front fender. There are multiple Batman logos throughout the body. But the structural change here, compared to the regular BE6, this one rides on 20-inch alloy wheels. Onto the rear, the tailgate is also slightly different in design. But throughout the body, you see multiple Batman logos. Much like the exterior theme, the inside of the BE6 Batman edition is also completely darked out. The seats, however, use a different kind of fabric. These get suede seat. The overall appeal is same, space is same, but the feel might be just a little more exquisite. On top of the dash, you also see a hint of golden applique that runs through. Now, I must remind you, this is limited to only 300 units. So if you want to get one of these, hurry up. The bookings open on August 23rd, and the unit you get, it's numbered from 1 to 300, and you get that on top of your key fob. When Kia EV6 was launched a couple of years ago, it stood out in the market thanks to a design which looked distinct. Come to 2025, there's a facelift for this car, and what has improved? Well, the most important, range. Range has climbed up to 581 kilometers thanks to a bigger 84 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and during our test run in the urban traffic, we could achieve over 480 kilometers on a single charge, which is quite remarkable. It supports fast charging, gets the new Hyundai Kia skateboard platform architecture, which supports up to 800 volt, which means real quick charging and less downtime for you. It looks the same. Silhouette looks swanky, it's low slung, it's an SUV, but has got sporty credentials. 19-inch alloy wheels, aero designed, and front, well, it looks distinct. Slight revision in the bumper design. Similarly, the rear half, the tail section has also been redesigned a little bit. The bumper looks more sportier. The side profile is similar, and these bulges and the lip give it a standout appeal along with the flush door handles. The EV6 was always a feature-loaded car, and with the new edition, things have not changed much. What is new here are these seat options. These have a different color. The layout remains same. Sporty bucket seats give electronic adjustment, heating and ventilation for the front seats. It gets 2-zone AC. Even on the rear you have AC vents and USB charging point. In fact, this is the best car in terms of legroom area and headroom if you are a chauffeur-driven passenger. However, you're seated low, which means the seat squab might just feel a little too less for your under-thigh support, but overall, the cushioning, the comfort, the space on offer is great. In terms of features, you get Meridian stereo system, there's a sunroof, this overall black upholstery option looks premium, the dashboard design has been slightly revised, not very much to my liking, but then it goes nicely with the flowy design. The shape of the AC vents have also been changed, and the centerpiece, 12.5-inch twin HD screens. Excellent layout, gets all the connected features, auto dimming IRVM, the steering wheel is also new. But on the back seat though, knee-high position, well, that might find a few takers going away from the car. So it's a bigger battery pack, thanks to which you get more range now. Realistically, we could attain up to 480 kilometers in real life. Now it's an all-wheel drive. Not many EVs in the segment come with dual motor setup, and this one in combination makes 325 horsepower, 605 Newton meter of peak torque, 5 drive modes to play with. If you want to drive it sedately, plonk onto the eco mode. However, if you want to drive it fast, get that performance out of it, you can ply in the sport mode. The steering wheel looks new, it's nicely weighted, which means I have good amount of confidence when I'm throwing the car around the corner. It doesn't feel vague. And also the all-wheel drive setup and low center of gravity for this car also helps to the overall dynamics of the car. It gets level 2 ADAS. At times it's a little too intrusive, but I don't complain. I'm not against ADAS features. It is a safety package. It's becoming more of a hygiene these days across segments. The suspension is slightly on the stiffer side, and when the EV6 goes over road undulations, road joints, you do feel that lateral movement in the suspensions which kind of come inside the cabin. If you're working in the back seat, being driven around by a chauffeur, well, that can be a little annoying, but not a deal breaker.
Alright, so let's talk about the design of the Thruxton 400. Yes, it's a modern day interpretation of a cafe racer, and the design is obviously inspired by the Thruxton 1200. Now you'll see this nice cafe racer like fairing here. It has nice clean lines and it has some edges. It's not entirely rounded like the Thruxton 1200. And if you see at the expanse of the side profile of the motorcycle, you see that it has those nice clean modern classic lines, right? And at the rear, the subframe is new. It is not the same as the Speed 400. The load bearing capacity is the same, and you also get this body colored bump stop or cowl for the rear seat, which is of course removable should you want to add a pillion rider with you. The engine stays the same as the Speed 400. There are a few updates there as well. We'll come to that in a bit. And if you were to talk about the front suspension, then unlike the Speed 400, this is done in black and that's done in gold colored forks, right? Overall, the design of the fuel tank also, it slightly changes. These recesses that you see here is slightly bigger so that you can grip the motorcycle better when you're cornering and when you're riding at high speeds, right? The bike continues to get the same set of features as the Speed and the Scrambler 400X, which includes dual channel ABS, switchable traction control and a USB port along with the same part LCD, part analog instrument console. So it's the same 398cc TR series single cylinder liquid cooled engine on the Thruxton 400, but few differences here and there. The motor now makes 2 horsepower more, so the total power output is 42 horsepower compared to the 40 horsepower on the Speed 400. The torque stays the same at 37.5 Newton meters, and Triumph claims that the top speed on this motorcycle is 160 kilometers per hour. The 0 to 100 is done in 6.7 seconds, which is 1 second less than that of the Speed 400. I've told you all about the engine, I've told you about the design. Now it's time for me to ride the motorcycle. So let's get going. So we spent a couple of hours riding the Thruxton 400. The engine feels significantly peppier in terms of performance, in terms of outlet acceleration, in terms of how the response to the throttle inputs are, right? So it feels quite peppy, it feels sporty, it feels engaging, and overall this motorcycle is a hoot to ride. So the mid-range and the top end is very, very strong, quite enjoyable, and that's courtesy of the increased rev range on the engine, right? So yes, quite enjoyed riding the motorcycle. The 6-speed gearbox, as usual, it's quite smooth. The gears slot in very nicely, and the slip and assist clutch keep all that power in check when you're like aggressively downshifting, so there's no wheel hopping, right? So in terms of performance, yeah, quite like this motorcycle. So the beauty that you see standing beside me is the Mercedes-AMG CLE 53 AMG Coupe. Now this is the second CLE model in India after the CLE 300 Cabriolet. And yes, this is not a cabriolet, this is a coupe. And in typical AMG fashion, this looks downright menacing. You have this nice Panamericana grille, these lovely wraparound headlights. You can see that. The matte color looks really good, menacing. And you have all these cuts and creases on the bonnet. So you have this power dome sort of a thing happening here. If you can just come over to the side, you can see these nice, chunky alloy wheels, AMG style of course. Looks very nice. And now this is the badging here, the Turbo 4MATIC Plus. And if you look at the profile of the vehicle, it is a coupe. It's a 2-door setup, looks very nice. And at the rear, you'll have this nice lip spoiler right here. You have the badging there, the CLE 53, and you have these quad exhausts as well. And of course, you have this AMG badging right here. Now look at this huge, massive engine bay, which houses the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. The peak power output is 449 horsepower, and the peak torque output is 560 Newton meters with 40 extra Newton meters in the over boost mode, taking the total output to 600 Nm. The motor gets a 9-speed dual clutch gearbox, and it can do the 0 to 100 sprint in 4.2 seconds and has a top speed of 250 km per hour. Mercedes is also working on a V8 engine which will be soon seen on the CLE, and that will be called the CLE 63 and not the 53 like you see here. Alright, so I'm inside the cabin of the CLE 53 AMG. So the first thing that you notice is this chunky steering wheel, and here you have the controls for switching the ride modes. Right here, so you have slippery, individual, comfort, sport, sport plus, and lastly race mode. And here you can toggle the exhaust, and this is from switching from manual to automatic as far as the gearbox is concerned. You have a 12.3-inch console in front of the driver and an 11.9-inch screen, touchscreen here, which houses all the functions. So you can see that whenever you change the ride modes, you have the drive, suspension and the dynamics, right? You'll see that the cabin has very less buttons. In fact, these are the only buttons that you get. Everything else is controlled from the touchscreen that you see here. It gives you that sporty experience when you're inside the cabin with these red seat belts that you see here. Very sporty. And you do get 2+2 seating. So 2 seats here, 2 seats at the rear, but those are really cramped and best suited to either keep your luggage or for your children.
If you own a slightly older car, your biggest worry today is probably E20. To talk more about what E20 means, how can it impact your car, is it really that worrisome? What benefits does it have? I have the right man for this purpose, Mr. Harmas Sarabji. Harmas, thank you so much for joining us today. First question, which is something that has been troubling a lot of people, that will OEMs adhere to their warranties if an older car uses E20 fuel?
Well, look, the OEMs or manufacturers are going to go by the book. So if in the owner's manual it says your car can only use E10, they're going to say, well, you use anything other than E10, then we are not liable. Obviously, that's what they're going to do. But reality can be different. So I think, the whole issue really is there's a lot of confusion in the market. And clearly, the thing is, car owners have been sort of blindsided, and suddenly this has popped up on it. Though E20 has been coming into the market for a long time, OEMs, manufacturers knew E20 was coming. But I think the communication just hasn't been proper, to the extent. So people are naturally worried. Obviously, there are doomsday scenarios being painted that you put E20 and your car will stop. It's like, it's not like putting petrol in diesel or diesel in petrol and you damage your engine immediately. Yes, there is an impact, especially on the older cars. But again, it's not catastrophic. There is degradation, and you will have to change parts. There will be a cost. Who bears that? The OEMs or the customers? It really depends how this evolves going forward. Some OEMs might just do it themselves. Manufacturers might do it themselves. In fact, this is really a chance for manufacturers to kind of step in and give kind of some confidence or peace of mind to their customers, and kind of look after the older cars by retrofitting wherever possible. Everyone can't do it, but some manufacturers, I think, would look at that. So yeah, manufacturer side, to answer your question, I think to be honest, everyone's put their hands up. No, you're using E20 in an E10 car. Sorry, that's not our problem. And they're going by the book. Problem is there's no E10 available now. That was the other issue. Everyone's jumped to E20 and now you only have E20.
But there were some tweets from oil manufacturing, oil marketing companies that XP95 has 10%, though now it's deleted. But what's the clarity on petrol grade? Which one has 20% ethanol and which ones don't have? Though RTI does say that XP95 also has 20%. So what's the clarity on that?
So I think it's quite simple. I mean, that's the whole issue. There's no E10 available right now. So if there was some E10 available, they would have given it. But that's not the case. I think, put it very simply, except for 100 octane, which is the really small volume, high performance petrol, it just wasn't feasible to put an ethanol blend in that. It's just easy to let that be because it sells in very minute volumes. So except for 100 octane, which is, given by brands like IOCL and HP, everything else is E20, but one good thing is, which has happened, is that the octane level has gone up. So from 91 to 95, now that's a big jump, and that really benefits cars with high compression engines because high compression engines need 95 octane, but it doesn't benefit low compression engines, which are the mainstream engine. Yeah, that's right. So I think it's there are three things. What happens with E20? It impacts your fuel efficiency, it impacts wear and tear, and it impacts the performance of the car, because obviously ECU calibration is done to different fuels. So if you want, let's look at the most worrisome thing is the impact on the degradation. Now, the only thing we have right now, which even the government is leaning on, is an ARAI study, which says there's not too much degradation. Now, concern is that this is being a bit downplayed and that there could be. Again, it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. Some manufacturers already E20 compliant for a long time. A company like Toyota over 10 years, Honda from 2008, Mercedes also, E20 compliant since BS6, and that is fully E20 compliant. For material compliance, it's even before, so the degradation issue is not there. So again, there's no real clear answer how much the degradation is going to be. But my sense is it's not going to be catastrophic. It will be over time. There will be some cost. You will have to replace rubber parts and seals and, things like that. Worst case, even injectors, can get clogged. But I think, we are quite ingenious. Even the OEMs are. There will be ways to counter this. There could be additives. Now, a lot of people are already saying use additives on social media. To be honest, I don't know which is a good one, so it's best again to go by what the manufacturer says. If you need to use an additive, go by what the manufacturer says, because you get some additives which can kind of are anti-corrosive in property, so they can counter it a bit. But I think at the end there will be issues with degradation. So I think over time people will need to change parts, but it's cumulative. Speaking to some of the manufacturers, they said maybe 2-3 years, 60,000 kilometers, you'll start seeing the effects of the corrosive factor. So yeah.
Well, that's all for today on the NDTV Auto Show. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel NDTV Auto and follow us on your favorite social media platform. I will see you next week. Till then, drive safe, take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years.
Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years, covering the corridors of power. What is said, what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux. From conflict to India's crowning glory, I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
Mohit, you are known for your music. All your films, musics stay with us till today. I'm a millennial and those music are kind of music. So whenever we say Mohit Suri film aa raha hai, we know the music will be good, right? It's a given. So you really work hard. But is this always like how you create your music? You need everything in place, the mood, the lighting, even when the person is in the studio and just singing. And also, how did you select your musicians that this person's voice is perfect for this song?
That's what I think, the amount you give to a song, that's how long it will last, I think. Everyone does the programming, everyone writes the words, everyone makes the thing. But the thing is how much you give, how much of heart you give to the lyrics or to the music or to the melody or to the singing. That's how long the song will last, is what I
US President Donald Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin met for about 2.5 hours on Friday at a summit in Alaska that started with a handshake